Okay, we're live. Hey, welcome to T's Weird Week News. I'm T. Krulos.
And I'm Heidi Erickson.
All right. So me and Heidi, we hung out last week to discuss plans. Uh,
We did.
Fakelandia Brewing. Um, and uh, here's something people can do right away. Get your calendars out and your pen or your, online calendar, um, because Milwaukee Paranormal Conference is happening this year,
Yes.
September 24th through the 26th. We're starting September 24th with a pre-paranormal party at the Fakelandia Brewing. It's gonna be super fun.
Yes.
And then our main day is going to be the 25th. That's going to be at Alverno College during the day. And at night, we're going to try to set up some ghost investigations, some that people can join in on. And September 26th, we're going to do sort of a mixture of different events throughout the day at different locations. So we're working on that, but we got those dates and we got somewhat of a plan. This year, the event is going to have a lot of organization and participation from T's Weird Week and also American Ghost Walks, which is a ghost tour company that I work for. But they're helping out too, and it's going to be fun. And this year, we decided that we wanted to keep most of the guests local. So the theme for the convention this year is Wisconsin, Good Land of Paranormal. So
Yeah.
a lot of local stories will be featured this year, and local people who have been investigating some of these topics.
We have plenty to work with here.
Yeah,
Wisconsin has plenty to work with. So much
absolutely.
strangeness. Yeah, it's
But
going to be fun.
yeah, and it's so weird. Like I was saying, when you and me and Andrew were chatting, like went from like doing nothing last year to all of a sudden, everyone's been sitting around and they want to do events. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening this summer and fall that we know
Yeah.
about. So we're going to be checking out some other events, like the Beast of Bray Road conference, which
Yeah.
is October 2nd. We're going to the Midwest Haunters convention. That's at the end of this month already, actually.
Yeah.
And what else? Wendigo Fest.
Yeah.
We're going to be appearing there, and some other stuff that I forget or is maybe still being figured out, but definitely a lot of stuff going on, which
Yeah.
is it's cool and it's kind of overwhelming. It's like all of a sudden everything's happening again.
It's cool. We thrive on chaos, man. It's going to
That's
be
true.
awesome. It's going to be super awesome. I'm still really hoping that we can somehow make it out to West Virginia to the Mothman Festival in an
Yeah.
airbrushed wizard van. That would be pretty dope. But if you guys know of any other super cool, even if it's just like little, like if you come from some tiny small town in the middle of nowhere and you know that every single summer they have just like a frogman festival, or like they like there's some old lady out there who does the most amazing haunted house you ever saw in your life, or like if there's some super weird shit that goes on in your little Wisconsin hometown, you should probably holler at us because we'll go to there. We will go to there so hard. We will go to the diner and eat pie. We'll
Yeah, and
talk
by
all
the way,
about
if
it.
you're watching this live on the live stream, you can leave a comment, and if it's appropriate, we'll throw it up on the screen and see what you have to say. But tell us about any events you know or what you're excited to be doing this summer and or fall. Um, yeah. Okay, so what do you want to start with?
Oh, there's so much that was happening this week. There's so much that was happening. I feel like the weirdness is also speeding up, which is great. It's like the gods of chaos are like, oh shit, like time to get off this pandemic train and into that down home weird shit that we're going on. I would say let's talk about the dinosaur thing first, because that
Yeah,
was funny to me. That was
yeah.
super funny to me.
So it's really funny to me because me and my girlfriend Kate, we like to pick out a show, so we don't have to sit there and go like, "What do you want to watch? Well, what do you want to watch? Well, what do
Sure.
you want to watch?" So we find a show that's usually several seasons long, and then we kind of roll with that if we're indecisive or if we want something on in the background while we're working on other stuff. So lately, we've been watching the show called Bones,
Oh,
and it's a procedural show, and the premise is there's this team of forensic scientists, and at the beginning of every episode, they find a corpse or a skeleton that is in an unusual situation that they
lucky.
then that they then have to figure out what happened at the scene.
I almost
And
never find unusual corpses. How do you get that job? What the
it,
fuck?
and as the seasons go on, like the stories become a little bit more and more far fetched. Like they're
Sure.
just all sorts of crazy, falling out of trees and stuck in weird stuff. So when I saw this story, I was like, "This is totally how
Right.
an episode of Bones starts." So the story is in a suburb of Barcelona in Spain. I don't think we've had any weird stories from Spain on the show yet.
Okay, firstly, they didn't say those people were from Spain. They just said it
Oh,
happened
okay.
in
Yes,
Spain.
it
They could
happened
be
there. Yeah.
they could be from Scotland. You don't know.
um, and there was a father and son who were inspecting a statue of a stegosaurus. Which, by the way, this is a weird part of the story too. The statue apparently is made out of paper mache, and it's like an outdoor statue on display.
Interesting.
But they were looking at the statue, and Heidi, you pointed out the clue that they discovered. You
Yeah.
want to tell us what that was?
They said, hold on, let me make sure I get it right because it was just so. Do you ever read something that's so absurd? It's just like poetry. It just is just so beautiful. They said they noticed a rank scent emanating from a stegosaurus,
Yeah,
which I think if it was a real stegosaurus, I mean, maybe they just thought that was added like realness because probably a real stegosaurus probably smelled pretty rank too, but that's not what happened. No.
yeah. They investigated, and I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the story
Yeah,
because it says that this person they believe dropped a phone into the statue and then fell in while they were trying to retrieve it, and they
right,
got stuck upside down inside of this
right.
Stegosaurus statue and died.
Okay,
But
so
but
but
looking at
so
the statue, I'm like, how?
right, plus also apparently his wife had reported him missing only a few hours earlier. She reported
Mhm.
him missing. Here's the thing about corpses though, is they don't start to emanate a rank stegosaurus smell for like I mean, he'd had it been in there for a day or two before he started to stink bad enough that people were like, that stegosaurus doesn't smell right, you know?
Right, right.
So what was he doing? How did his wife not know? Because this is outside of a museum. How did his wife not know that her husband was going to the museum? Right? Like you don't it's not a thing that people in Spain are just randomly like, I'll stop by the museum and check out that stegosaurus. First of all, she didn't notice that he was like, she didn't know that he was. Also, how did he drop his phone inside of the Stegosaurus? What was there better reception in there or something like that? Like, why was the phone in the Stegosaurus to begin with? I don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that he was trying to take a picture of the statue and he dropped it inside of the statue somehow, but I don't see how what angle that
Right.
would happen at.
A picture
So
of the inside of the Stegosaurus.
I guess maybe.
I have questions. I think Bones would have questions, very
Yes,
many questions.
they would. They would start on this case, and then they would discover that it was like two dinosaur experts that had a rivalry, and
Oh,
one killed them and made it look like an accident.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like to be fair too, if you were gonna kill somebody, regardless if you were a dinosaur expert or not, that's a great that's a great place to stick a body. Like, because they're gonna, if you were gonna kill somebody and you were like, not only am I gonna kill you, I'm gonna stick you someplace where I know somebody's gonna find you because you're gonna be leaking out of the ass end of this Stegosaurus like statue. That's like a just a big like middle finger to you because like I don't even care. I'm sticking you in a dinosaur. That's fair though. I think if I was gonna get murdered, like straight up murdered by a rival paleontologist or anyone really, like don't just roll me into a ditch, put me someplace interesting. I want people to talk about it on podcasts later on. I think that's a good idea. Oh, no, you know what? If you murder me, stick me into one of those big boy. Remember the big boys?
Oh yeah,
And
holding the
with,
hamburger.
with
Yeah,
the big cheeseburger?
yeah,
Perfect. That's the
right.
statue I want to be buried in. Super, super. I love it. Super. I love it. Oh, there was another thing with occults this week, too. Man, we got just a little bit apocalypsy, and all of a sudden, everybody's in a fucking cult all over the place. Like, you guys, just make
It
some
is.
sourdough bread with the rest of us. Why you got to be in cults all the time? What was I started reading about that and it was tripping me out. Tell me about it.
Yeah, this is a little bit of old school meets new school. The group is called the Rod of Iron Ministries.
Phrasing.
Um, and it's actually a spin-off of there was a group called the Unification Church, led by Reverend Moon,
The
and
Moonies.
so they were nicknamed the Moonies.
Yeah.
And this is actually his son. His son now has this sort of splinter group. Um, but here's something from an article that just came out. I believe this was posted yesterday or today. Um, so it talks about the younger Moon, who set up shop in 2017 in Newfoundland, Pennsylvania, follows the
Yeah.
doctrine of his late father with a twist. Moon says he was inspired by a biblical passage in the book of Revelation that talked about Jesus using a rod of iron to protect himself and others. He concluded this was a reference to AR 15s and integrated
Sure.
high powered firearms into regular church services,
Sure.
including wedding ceremonies.
Yep. I
So,
definitely remember all those pictures of Jesus walking around with an AK.
right. It's like, Jesus, this is such an American, doesn't it seem like such an American
No,
religion? We're going
no.
to bring our AR 15s in
Mm,
the church.
yeah.
Jesus was actually Rambo.
Yeah. You know what? It just like is this kind of stuff where you hear it and it sounds so impossibly hyperbolic that like if you made it up,
Yeah, you couldn't make it
people
up.
wouldn't believe it. Nobody
Right.
would buy that shit. I love too that okay. Here's the other thing, because Reverend Moon and like everybody, like if you guys don't remember, like back in the 80s, look up for the videos of the mass weddings. That's what the
Yes,
Moonies
right.
were known for. They would like marry 1,000 people, and the church would just pick, and you were with whoever Reverend Moon said you were married to, and they'd all get married together. So
Yeah.
he had two kids, I guess, or though those were the only two children who were mentioned in this article, which is I think by Vice. Vice out there doing the good work again.
Yeah.
Um, and one of them is this guy who's like, I'm going to follow in dad's footsteps. That must really piss off people who've got like a real estate agency or a hardware store and their kids don't want nothing to do with it. But over here, you got Reverend Moon's kids starting the ministry of the iron rod like it's nothing. Crazy. So one of them has this church, and the other one owns a gun factory.
Right. Yes.
A
There you
gun
go.
factory. And like none of the people in the church thought it was odd because like the Moonies were always considered like pretty like it was a fucking cult. Like you turned over your life, your money, your everything to the church and did whatever Reverend Moon said. It was a fucking cult. But it was like when you thought of Moonies, you thought of like hippy dippy people at like the airport and like, whatever. They weren't people who were necessarily violent per se. And then all of a sudden, like the kid had a gun factory and now they're bringing AK like the pictures of like the guys in the full religious
Yeah, they like wear
thing.
crowns and some of them have gold plated like
Right.
AR
Yes.
15s.
The guy they call him king, and he wears this crown of bullets.
Yes, yes, yes. And the other members, they have like these robes and they have like crowns as well, and it's very weird. And it seems from what I got from that article is he's kind of been intensifying as far as
Yeah.
In the Trump era,
Well,
he
sure.
began to talk a lot more about conspiracy, and he actually was there at the January 6th insurrection. He was part of that
Yeah.
crowd, and since then he's become even more intense about how Joe Biden's going to open up these re-education camps, and like all of the patriots are going to be rounded up and put into these camps and stuff like that. So
I don't think Joe Biden has the ambition to open up anything. But that was the thing that was so dangerous about Donald Trump, though, is that the language that he used and the people that he lifted up, these were people who had extremist views, and a lot of them were violent, and they conflated violence with being American and like our need to defend ourselves from whatever. And then he pulled in all of this like extreme evangelical Christianity stuff. And these are people who already believe that the end of the world is nigh, and that it
yeah,
doesn't matter what happens to them on this plane because Jeebus is going to take care of them. And those are dangerous motherfuckers. Like my
gun-toting
mom,
Jesus, yeah.
right. My mom used to say that there's only two kinds of people that you need to fear, and that is no, three kinds of people, and that was uh I don't know, something about people who have nothing to fear. People who have nothing to fear are the most dangerous people in the world. And these people don't fear anything because they feel like if they die in the name of whatever, they're going to go to heaven. So I don't. Okay, I'm not here to judge anybody for wearing a super blinged out crown. Honestly, if I had a crown made out of bullets, I'd probably wear it too. I'd probably fashion an entire dope ass fit around that crown. That's an accessory. That's an accessory you don't leave in the closet. That's some dope shit. The problem with these particular folks is that they are soups into the whole like QAnon, like uh the death of the American Empire, and like you said, like pedophiles, Satanists, like they've taken all this xenophobic and like super insular like mentality, and have said that they need to train their people to be ready to fight and
Yeah,
die
yeah.
like the yeah.
Well, and here's the alarming thing, and this is kind of what the main point of the article that just came out is that this group, a Rod of Iron Ministries, just bought a 40-acre compound in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's got
Yeah.
bad news written all over it.
It's a literally 40 miles from Waco, you guys.
Yeah.
It's like a drive from Waco. Like, I don't remember the last time. See, this is the thing. Like, you want people to have religious freedom, and they should. Absolutely, they should have religious freedom. I think that's a really important thing, that you should be able to worship or not worship however you want to worship or not worship. But I mean, like, at what point, when people are like, God is telling us that we need to arm ourselves and prepare to fight back against this socialist, Marxist, Chinese vaccine, because like they think of course, they're completely anti-vax and have a million theories about why that's bad. At what point are you like, okay, you guys need to like not be doing this any place? You gotta turn over your golden AK-47s and find another fucking hobby, because that one guy they talked about it in the article, already flipped his wig and went out and like attacked a bunch of cops, screaming that he was Jesus Christ and asking them if they were ready to die. And he spent days, I guess, before that, calling other people in the church and being like, everybody's going to die. Are you ready? Like, and this is what confused me a little bit, because they talked to people who knew this guy, and they were like, yeah, he was calling us for days. Like, we were like, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought he was going to shoot some people for sure, but they didn't call the cops because they were all in this cult together, and because their baseline for reality is a little bit off. Like, if somebody on my bowling team called me tomorrow and was like, I'm Jesus Christ, are you guys ready to die? I would be on the phone so fast to somebody, like, go check on Chuck, because something's going on with him. He's having a scenario, please. Like do a wellness check, something for this guy. And they didn't. They just didn't. And like that's probably not going to be the last time that happens with these Bullet Crown kids.
Yeah, yeah. So, this is a spot and a story to watch for sure. Is this
Yeah.
compound in Texas? Because, like you say, who knows what's going to come out of this
Yeah.
community? And I feel like in a community like that, it really intensifies because, like you say, they're sort of building each other up and
Yeah.
sharing like a group mentality, and they're creating this like what they think is going to be a utopia where everyone's walking around with guns all the time,
Right.
like shooting apples off of trees and
Right.
you know
But anytime
so
anytime the idea of your utopia is based off of like this fear of this imminent whatever, probably you should like just sit down and have a beer and call your mom and talk it out, because that's a red flag. That's a super duper red flag. Like you don't want anything to do with that. I don't know. But like we're also at this place where people like legitimately think the end of the world is nigh. And so like it's difficult to talk sense to people who think that like we're all about to die and Satan and hell and all of this stuff is going to happen. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about those guys. It's not like there's not cults in Wisconsin, because there totally are, and that's real life. And it's not
mhm.
like there aren't cults that are built around things that aren't religious, because that's true too. It absolutely happens. There are people right now this week that apparently went to Walmart to go get Pokemon cards, and some
Oh
dude
my
fucking died. They like ran him over
goodness,
to
I've
get
heard
these
this. I'm
Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm laughing, but it's very sad. I mean,
I mean,
I'm
it is like, how would you like to tell people like you're arranging a funeral for someone that's dear to you, and you have to have that funeral knowing that he got run over fighting to get the last Charizard card?
right.
Like, it's just a super lot. Like,
Yeah,
I don't really get
it's
it.
been not just in that incident, but it's been a reoccurring problem where there's people fighting.
Yeah.
Some stores have had to pull the cards because they've had too many incidents where people are getting violent trying to get the last Pokemon cards.
Yeah. And
So
I don't get why is that even happening? I mean, is this 1996? Did I miss a page? I don't know why that's going down. Like, why are Pokemon a thing now? Why is that happening?
it's like
Really weird.
it goes on a cycle, I think. Remember when Pokemon Go, the game first came out and
Yeah.
everyone was outside playing it, which I get, it's fun. I've played Pokemon Go before. But then I remember I was doing a ghost tour, and downtown was really crowded one day. And this was like, at least 9 months or a year after Pokemon Go had come out. And I was like, everyone's down here playing Pokemon, but it was because they had like some new character in the game or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So they find a way to like drive interest in that every once in a while, I think, by coming out with a new game or a new like set of cards or whatever.
Yeah.
So um,
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
that's cool. I don't know. It seems like a dumb thing to get
It's
so
just
heated
it's such a
for.
cutesy kids thing that it's hard to imagine people getting hard and being like, "Give me the Pokemon."
I'm a Pokemon mother. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm a ridiculous person, and I guarantee you, when I finally shuffle off this mortal coil, it will be some like the just no one will be able to tell the story with a straight face. Like, that's my goal in life. Hashtag goal. I want to die in the most ridiculous ways so that people can't even talk about it without like busting out laughing. That's my hope. And so I'm not here to talk shit. I'm not here to judge. But at the same time, it's like, how could it be that worth it to you? Deja Boogaloo, Waco 2, Deja Boogaloo. Yeah, dude.
There's someone commenting on our gun cult story.
Yeah, fully. That's like exactly what it is. I mean, it's creepy because the thing is that there's more than one of those kinds of cults out there. I don't think they're all being financed by a gun manufacturer. That's the
Yeah,
twist to that makes it a little bit weird and gross for me. That's a twist to it. Like I like that's the one that freaks me out just a touch.
it's a
Um,
conflict of interest. Yeah,
I guess unless you think that God walks around with an AK-47 and because it's on brand, bitch.
yeah.
Jesus with that iron rod. I guess that dude's walking around in a leather jacket now with a bunch of patches on it. I kind of want some of those patches where he's like made up his own like gang, like Jesus gang. I don't know. I don't fucking know, guy.
Wait, you're
The
talking about Jesus himself is walking around like that?
I mean, no, I think if Jesus, the person, like the incarnation of Yahweh, is walking around someplace, I 100% guarantee you that he's like some 6'3" drag queen. There's just no way that he wouldn't be, because that's how you're gonna get to people. That's how you're gonna get their attention. You're gonna be the most fabulous, absolute Messiah that you can be. You're gonna be your eyeliner is going to be flawless. Like that's what's going to happen. There's no way that Jesus is walking around with an AK-47. I just don't believe that. That guy can turn water into wine. He knows how to de-escalate. He doesn't require armament. Like that's like
A rod of iron. Yeah.
AK-47s are for people who don't have any public speaking skills. Okay, and we know Jesus knew how to talk, so that's not real life. I'm just saying. That's just what I'm saying. What else
Cool.
happened this week that was real fucked up?
Well, I got one here. This one kind of ties into a lot of what we've been talking about already, and it gives me an excuse to put up this banner. Which,
Yeah.
if you're listening and not watching, it's a now a very often used banner that reads
Yes.
Wisconsin, Scotland, or Florida, because that's where so many of our stories
Ooh.
come from.
All
And this
right.
one's another one from right here in the dairy state of Wisconsin.
Fabulous. I'm proud of
This
us.
takes place in Shawano County,
All right.
which I've been there. It's a weird place,
It is a weird place. My
and
mom lives up there.
really, does
Yeah.
she lives in Shawano County
No,
or close to it?
she lives in Clintonville, which is in
Okay.
Wapaka County. But fun fact, when I was a teenager, there was only one Taco Bell in a 60-mile radius, and it was in Shawano. So if you wanted Taco Bell, you had to drive to Shawano, which we did frequently. It's also the home of Qualheim's True Value Hardware and Pet Store, which is the only place I know where you can buy snowmobile, a snow blower, or a reticulated python. Same
Wow.
trip, same trip, super convenient. Yep, Shauna's the
so,
best.
this person got in the news last year
Mhm.
because she owns a campground in
Yeah.
Shawano. This is where we're all going to take a camping trip this summer up to
Is it
Shawano and stay here.
is it
And
Castle Campgrounds that she owns, perchance? I couldn't find
uh,
out.
I I don't think that they mentioned the name of the campground in the article that I
Oh,
read, but I'm sure
I
we could
wonder
find
if it
out
is.
pretty easily. But
Yeah, I bet you it is.
she got in the news last year because while most businesses were saying that you need a mask to go in their business, right?
Yeah.
She decided it was opposite day and put up a sign saying that you could not wear a mask in her campground.
Oh,
So,
was
and
it
this was
reverse
in the middle of
psychology?
the pandemic.
Did
No,
she?
it was she, was an anti-masker, and
Right.
this is her campground, so no one's allowed to wear masks. They have to contract COVID if they're staying there, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, that news is really pales in comparison to this story from May 15th. This woman ran a red light,
Mhm.
and the police attempted to pull her over. She led them on a 6 mile long chase,
Bless
which
her.
I mean, she's lucky that she's white, or she'd be dead, very dead. They
Yeah.
attempted to stop her car with strip spikes, spikes you lay across the road. They
Yeah.
attempted to stop her car twice with those, but she kept
Yeah.
going. She stopped at one point, and they tried to open her door using one of those, like they're called a Slim Jim, where you can pop
Yeah.
open a lock. Again, she's lucky, they could have shot her, if it was a different situation, but she sped off while they're trying to open her door. So
Yep.
they kept chasing her, and eventually she ran out of wheels, maybe, and
No,
they
because
arrested her.
when they stopped her the second time, her tires were already completely flat. That's why she
Shredded.
stopped. Then a deputy who knew her, who walked up to her car and was like, "Karen, what are you doing?" And and that was the point at which she was like, "Fuck you guys. I don't have to stop for you, apparently." Well,
Yes.
no, she told them that she was on her way to rescue someone from a sex trafficking ring. She
Yes, and
accused the
she
Yeah,
accused the officers of being either being
yes.
pedophiles, or helping harbor
being
pedophiles or
on the
something.
take. And to
Right.
be fair, there are places where there's evidence that that might be true because the world is kind of fucked up sometimes. And any place there's a place of power, there will be people who abuse it. But yeah, she did that. Then she flipped him the bird, told him she was a sovereign citizen and thus not obliged to stop for them, and
Yeah.
then took off on her fucking rims for another 2 miles on the back roads of Shawano County. Now, I don't know if y'all have ever like really been to Shawano. You haven't really been to a rural community anywhere. If you've never been, like high on the back roads. Shawano County is just a warren of just roads that have no name, roads that have a sign that's like a piece of corrugated aluminum with bullet holes in it, and like what looks like the remnants of words that have maybe been painted on there in 1978, like Bob's Road, fucking nowhere. And she knows them. She owns a campground in Shawano. So I am picturing this Dukes of Hazard ass
This is what I was
scenario.
gonna say, Dukes of Hazzard,
Yes.
yeah.
Where she's just mad rolling, like sparks flying off her rims because she got no tires. She ain't got no tires. She's probably dragging one of those spike strips behind her like a goddamn kite tail, and just like I don't know, just like I want to believe like listening to Britney Spears at max volume because I know it's gonna slow her down and she is working, bitch. And they finally did get her and arrest her. How did they finally catch her? What did they?
They smashed in her
Oh,
driver's side window and
sure.
like, unlocked her door and pulled her out of the car.
Good for them. Good for them. I don't. Do you understand the sovereign citizen
This is
thing?
something, this is why this, and this article was shared in the Tease Weird Week Facebook group. People are
Oh my
always
goodness.
sharing
Oh
very
my
interesting
goodness.
articles in there.
Mhm.
And it caught my attention because of that, because I've crossed paths with this sovereign citizens idea
Of course you have.
several times over the
Tell me.
course of talking about other stuff,
Let's hear it.
especially, not surprisingly, conspiracy theory.
Oh,
It's
there's gotta be.
something that ties into that. So I looked up on Wikipedia. I'm just going to read a short paragraph about their belief because it's very confusing. It says, some sovereign citizens also claim that they can become immune to most or all laws of the United States by renouncing their citizenship, a process they refer to as expatriation, which involves
Mhm.
filing or delivering a non-legal document claiming to renounce citizenship in a federal corporation and declaring only to be a citizen of the state in which they reside, to any county clerk's office that can be convinced to accept it.
Okay, fun fact. You can renounce your citizenship from the United States of America. It costs several $1,000s to do it, and you have to have another country that's willing to take you in. You can't just be like, I'm only sovereign citizens. According to maritime law, I can shoplift all I want at Pick and Save. No, but that's literally it, though. They literally are saying that they're not subject to any laws because they're not citizens, and ergo your rules don't like
Right.
involve me at all. That's between you and Jesus. I don't have nothing to do with that. But that is incorrect. If you don't think it's incorrect, talk to any indigenous person. They'll be happy to explain to you that it does not matter. If you are not technically a member of the United States of America, if you're part of another nation, if you are on whatever the United States says is United States soil, you're going to do what they tell you to do. They're going to shoot your damn tires out, drag your ass to court, and you're going to wear a mask in jail, whether you like it or not. That's just how it works. I respect the gall, though. Like I respect the gall of somebody who's just like, fuck you, I don't live here. Like, you're not my dad.
Yeah. So we got this comment from Shane, and he's saying something that's really the heart of a lot of it is they don't
Yeah,
like to pay taxes. They don't think
sure.
that they should pay federal taxes. So that is like really the source of a lot of their anger as far as I'm not going to pay taxes, damn it. So I'm going to
I
be a sovereign citizen.
I think that Karen or whatever her name is should be goddamn good and pleased that she paid her taxes because if she hadn't, none of those roads would have been paved and she'd have had a hell of a time getting away from the cops on her rims on a gravel road. So,
Um,
whatever, Karen.
They're also, and I really want to look more into this. Oh, I just made a pun and I didn't even realize it. Okay, my editor told me about there's a special kind of sovereign citizen and they're called Moorish. sovereign citizens,
Like
and
the
they like to
Moors?
wear a red fez hat. And there was an incident in Washington where there was this guy going around house to house wearing a fez hat and telling people that because he was like part of the Moorish Republic and was a sovereign
Uh-huh.
citizen, that he could claim their property and that they had to move out of their
Wow.
houses. But he had like some
Wow.
sort of logic behind it. It wasn't just a complete, it didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't originate with this guy either. It's like this small group of sovereign citizens that think that they can reclaim or that property ownership is like the law. It doesn't exist. So they can claim a
Sure.
property if they want to.
I'm
I don't
sure
know.
that went over like a Led
Yeah,
Zeppelin.
yeah, they're like, I'm not gonna move out of my house, but thanks for
So
trying.
he went door to door in a red fez telling
In
people
a
that
rich neighborhood. Yeah, yeah,
that he owned all their like some kind of weird reverse Santa Claus.
yeah, yeah.
Gross. I love
Yeah.
it. So wait, did he get arrested? He got arrested, right? Did he get arrested?
Uh,
Maybe.
I think no, I don't think that he got arrested because I think it was a mystery. I'll have to dig up that article. That was from last year, like in the maelstrom of weird stories happening during the pandemic. This was one of them.
Okay.
So,
Um, that's amazing. I Emperor Norton, but an evil one. Mayhap. Mayhap, that's exactly what it is. I don't know, but I kind of want to be a sovereign citizen now. I think if I was, though, I wouldn't just be like, I'm just a citizen of Wisconsin. I would probably come up with like a whole magical nation with
I
a
think that's
like,
kind of what this Moorish republic did. Like they
right.
like made up their own
Yeah, good for them.
nation that they were sovereign
Yeah.
citizens of.
No, I like that. I like that very much. Like that one guy who took over that oil rig and named it Sealandia, and he decided he was the prince of
Nice.
Sealandia, and his wife was the queen of Sealandia. Fun fact, that is like the smallest and longest standing like island nation in the world is the island of Sealandia, which is just an abandoned oil rig that this guy took over and decided who was going to turn into his own country.
Yeah, I
So good
love
for them.
stories like that for sure. I know there's a couple other ones.
Yeah.
My friend Chris Roth actually wrote a book that was about micronations, is what they're called.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other ones where someone has claimed like this property is a sovereign nation of Heidi Stan or something, or Andrewlandia or whatever.
I mean, I like it. I like the again, I respect the gall. And honestly, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day because I was talking about fucking Ted Bundy. Okay, so people are super obsessed with serial killers right now for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't really get down with serial killers, mostly because they're just some dude who was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and then he did. And people were super obsessed with Ted Bundy for a second, like he was some kind of super genius. But the fact of the matter was he wasn't a super genius. In fact, every indication suggests that he was actually of somewhat below average intelligence. He wasn't terribly charming. That's not a real thing. Ted Bundy's only superpower was that he was doing all these murders in the 70s, and the 70s was not real good at catching serial killers.
Yeah.
And he just decided he was gonna, and
Yeah.
so he did. Like he was like,
Yeah.
society's rules don't apply to me. So there's something to be said for like the power of just being like, who's gonna stop me? Because lots of people get away with a lot of shit by just being like, I don't think you can stop me. Like, I don't think you're faster than me. That's fair. But like that's only fair insofar as if you're not bothering people. Like, murdering a bunch of folks or going to people's houses in a fez and telling them that they don't live there anymore. Like, as long as you back up and just leave people alone, I'm sure they'll let you wear any kind of hat you want. You just gotta stay out of people's business, y'all. Jesus.
Yeah, there is a lot of serial killer shit happening. I feel like they
Yeah.
did Ted Bundy like in a documentary and a
Couple of
movie.
them. Yeah, they did like four of them at the same time, all
Yeah,
came out at the same time.
there's
And I
another
was like,
Dahmer movie coming out, I'm pretty sure.
so gross. Dude, that's so fucking
Um,
gross.
well, here's a comment from Shane. He says, Shane says, I always love the concept of naming serial killers embarrassing names. Stanley Dipshit, the stupid murderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
You should think of one for Ted Bundy, Shane, because he was stupid. And like I especially you are, but you're paraphrasing it beautifully, darling. Um, I always hated the narrative that he was this like such an incredibly charming person that he like charmed all these. Like, he didn't charm anybody. He told them he was hurt so that they would try and help him. He
yeah,
was literally just capitalizing on them being nice people, and it was stupid. And Jeffrey Dahmer, ugh, don't get me started. That's gross. Or like there's that woman Bailey Saran. To be fair, I watch Bailey Saran's like podcast because I think she's super witty and entertaining, but she tells like these stories about like murderers and stuff like that while she does her makeup, which is fabulous, by the way. Eyebrows on point. But like I can't get in. I can't get in. She at least like talks about the victims and like makes no secret of hiding her contempt for the killers, as opposed to like turning them into these weird mythological figures. I'm like, they're not though. They're just some people who just decided they could be fuckers if they wanted to until somebody stopped them, is pretty much what happened. And that's
yeah,
gross.
yeah. I do watch these serial killer documentaries once in a while. Well, especially over the last year because
Right.
they're on, and I've been watching shit tons of TV.
Right.
I just watched. There's one on David Berkowitz, the son of Sam,
Sure.
and it suggested that he, in fact, didn't kill people alone. That he was part of a like satanic group. But I did not find it to be a very convincing documentary at all.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah. No.
loose, very loose evidence that would suggest that,
Yeah. He
and
was.
also a lot of it was based on his word, which I wouldn't take his word as fact.
No, I've said this before about the Son of Sam, and I will say it probably again, just because, excuse me, just because of the circles we run in. This topic is bound to come up again. But I don't
Yeah.
want to hear another goddamn word about Berkowitz until he sits down and tells us about his relationship with his dog. I want to know what happened the first time the dog spoke.
Oh
That
yeah,
must
yeah,
have been a weird Tuesday. I
yeah.
want to know what the dog said that convinced him to start killing people. Because it's one thing when your dog starts talking. It's another thing when your dog is like, you should hack that person into little pieces and throw him in a bush.
Right.
What was the pitch? I want to know. Like, if that's not what the conversation we're having, I'm not interested. I really don't care. Like, whatever. Whatever,
Yeah.
David Berkowitz. Shut up. Nobody cares. It's not
Yeah.
real life.
And just like reading the letters that he wrote at the time,
Yeah.
they're very far out of touch with anything.
Yeah.
No.
But like, I wonder how much of that. See, now look what we're doing, T. Look who we're doing. We were talking
Yeah.
about how we didn't want to talk about serial killers. What
And now we're
happened?
talking about him. Yeah.
No, fucking talk about serial killers.
Yeah.
Whatever. I want to talk about whales.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm very curious to hear this. You told me
Okay.
about it, and I had not heard the story, so I'm curious to
I know.
hear what this is about.
Okay. So, what this is about is one of the most creepy metal ass phrases in marine biology, which is a UME, an unusual mortality event.
Nice.
Andrew, when you redo this, I want you to do that into negative and like lightning and thunder. Unusual mortality event. All that means is that a bunch of animals die for no reason. And they're like, that's unusual. When it happens with whales is extra unusual because whales are these great big animals who, I don't know if you know this, they live in the ocean. Whales do. And they're real good at living in the ocean. That's like all they ever do. But sometimes, for no particular reason, a whole bunch of them will beach themselves, which is not good for whales. Whales do not do well on beaches.
Yeah.
Much like the Irish, they should just stay off the beach because it's not safe for them. There has been a UME, an unusual mortality event in San Francisco this year. So far, 12 whales have beached themselves, which is a large number of whales. Don't usually do that. Now, there's a couple of regular ass reasons that whales could beach themselves. Sometimes whales are sick and dying, and they beach themselves so that they can just die on the beach without being slowly eaten alive by animals as they get weaker, which fair, totally fair.
Yeah.
Sometimes they suggest that whales get lost. They get confused. Like there was one that happened in 2018 in Australia because there's a beach in Australia off of Tasmania, where for some reason a whole like most of the beachings that happen in Australia, which is of course just a big ass island, almost all happen on this one particular bay, and nobody really knows why that is. Um, but there was a whole family of whales, of gray whales, I believe. Gray whales swim together in pods, so one whale will lead them. So if that one whale doesn't know where they're going, sometimes a whole mess of whales will end up dead on the beach because this one whale, like, didn't get the memo or was drinking that morning or whatever. That's got to be embarrassing for that one whale. Like you had one job, guy. But that it does not account for these. I'm sorry, unusual mortality events, because that means they don't know why. Like it's not like some of these whales get hit by boats, but they can tell when a whale gets hit by a boat. Usually it's got, it's injured, it's, its neck, its head, something has happened, it's run into a side. Um, this all has to do with like shipping lanes. Like a lot of people who are very about conservation have said repeatedly that the way that the military uses ships and sonar is really dangerous to animals that communicate with sonar like dolphins and whales, because they communicate on the same frequencies that dolphins and whales do, and because dolphins and whales communicate over like vast distances, it might take hours to get a message from one whale to another. That's why they're so loud. Like a blue whale's call is 190 decibels, which is almost as loud as a jet engine. Like if you were right in front of a whale, a blue whale, when it sent out its loudest call, you would die. Your internal organs would rupture and you would be
Yeah.
dead from like a whale yell, essentially, which is another great way to die before they stick you in a stegosaurus statue. But I
Right.
digress.
Right.
Um, so they suggest that it's because like these ships are putting out these signals and so they can't communicate with each other, but that doesn't really explain how they get so confused that they end up on the beach because they they use like so many animals do, like geese do and things. I'd like to see a timeline of whale deaths versus Navy sonar. I mean, they're out there actually, Shane. That's actually that's part of what but see, what do they say that uh, just because something is related to something doesn't mean correlation doesn't equal causation. So the thing about it is that we've had more sonar over time, but other things have also happened over time that can contribute to these same things at the same rate because industrialization and globalization all happen at the same time as well. So pollution happens as well. So the shifting of the magnetic poles, which used to be a like wacky conspiracy theory, um, and is now not a wacky conspiracy theory. The science is there, like mainstream science is like, yes, the poles are actually shifting. That's really happening. And so as a result of that, oh my God, there's so much more to it. As a result of that, they're suggesting that the world is coming to an end. And we can tell that the world is coming to an end by the number of whales that are beaching themselves. Because if the poles shift too far, the crust of the earth can move too. Because the earth is just basically like a giant ravioli, right? The earth is a ravioli. It's a noodle on the outside, soft, tender, delicious,
Well,
molten
I thought it
lava
was flat,
innards.
but okay.
And flat. It can be flat. Raviolis are flat. Raviolis are totally
Flattish,
flat.
yeah.
The point is, if the magnetic poles shift, the crust can move, and that can cause all kinds of things that will end up underwater. Texas will end up where the North Pole is, all kinds of wacky shit like that. And there's evidence in like fossil records that at least once before in the history of the world, the poles have shifted in such a way that there was a huge like crust shift. And there's a term for it. I don't remember what it is. That happened very rapidly to such a degree that it caused a die off of about 95% of the living creatures on the earth at that period in time. Also, this is my favorite part, and this is why it's weird. You remember that Star Trek movie? Was it Star Trek 3? Oh, I'm such a bad Trekkie. Where there was the whales. Remember the whales? Gracie and what was the other fucking whale? I don't know. The other whale was kind of blasé. The other whale was kind of basic. Gracie was the big dealer. And like the intrepid crew of the Starship Enterprise go back in time by whipping themselves around the sun. Remember that? This is
Yeah.
just Greek. Do you guys remember?
No, I do. I don't remember which one it was either. No.
Sometimes when I talk about Star Trek, I forget that not everybody was only allowed to watch Star Trek when they were kids. Okay. Um, so they go back in time to get these whales, and the reason that they do that is because there's this great big alien thing that has come to Earth, and it's destroying the planet with its massive, huge signal. And the only way that they can that they can communicate with this giant alien thing that is accidentally destroying the world is big is by getting whales, is by getting these humpback whales, because they figure out that the pitch and frequency of whale song is what this signal that's destroying the world sounds like underwater. So they go back in time and they get the whales so the whales can talk to the thing and tell them they're fine. There you go. It was Star Trek 4. Shane, you were just killing it this time. This whole podcast is just being kept afloat by Shane's commentary. Amazing.
Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
The voyage home. I'm gonna send that man a t-shirt. Um, so they do that, right? Here's the fun thing about that I love super much. Scientists from SETI and other places are literally studying whale song so that in the event that they receive a message from deep space or that an alien listen, it doesn't matter that you just Googled it, Shane. It doesn't matter that you didn't pull that out of your ass. What matters is you came through in the clutch, okay? That's what counts. I believe in you, buddy. Um, they're studying this because uh, the way that whales communicate with each other, intelligent species communicate with each other, because mainstream science believes in intelligent species, not just monkeys and us. Monkeys and us and pigs and certain birds and whales are all considered intelligent species capable of speech and like abstract thought and the concept of time and death and all of this kind of shit. But they believe that when aliens communicate with us, it'll be more like whale song because it'll be something that's based entirely on sound. Because most animals, like monkeys and shit, we don't just communicate with our voices. We don't just communicate with sounds. We communicate with our body language and our facial expressions and our gestures. But because whales communicate with each other across vast spaces, you know, like outer space would be, none of that's in there. It's just sound. So they're studying this. So also they're suggesting that when all these whales beach themselves or whatever and they all die or whatever, it's because they're receiving messages from outer space. And the messages from outer space are confusing their capacity to know where they're supposed to be, where land is. It's literally blowing their minds to the extent that they can't, like they don't pay attention to where they're going and they all beach themselves in Tasmania and die. So that was that was my whole bit about whales. You're welcome. Thank you to thank the Academy.
Very, very interesting stuff. I did not know that.
I've been waiting 20 years to tell that story, T. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but there's a story, I just want to mention. It's interesting. John, speaking of, he's not a serial killer or even a killer at all, but John Hinckley Jr.
Okay, yeah.
His claim to fame was that he attempted to assassinate President Reagan in 1981.
Oh, that's
He
fair.
wounded Reagan as well as three other people, and was sent to. He was declared not guilty by reason of insanity.
Sure.
But he was in a rehab facility up until 2016, when he was released, but they had some stipulations. John Hinckley Jr., by the way, if anyone's read my book American Madness, there's a little bit of Richard McCaslin's story that reminds me of John Hinckley Jr. as well, because one of the reasons he did the shooting was he was trying to impress Jodie Foster. He
Oh,
was
right.
in love with her and he was kind of stalking her, and he believed
Why
that
did he think that
she would see this as a very brave act, because he had gotten a crush on her after seeing the movie Taxi Driver.
sure.
And I think that he thought he was going to be like Travis Bickle, who's a character Robert De Niro played, and would be this sort of badass that shot Reagan, and then she would fall in love with him. I don't know, but like
Okay.
Richard had some unusual stipulations to his parole, including that he could not own costumes. And I found
He
a
couldn't own
list.
costumes.
Yes, because he had dressed in a costume and done this crime. But John Hinckley Jr. He also had a pretty long list of things that he had to adhere to if he was to be released, and they include a prohibition on alcohol, firearms, obviously, ammunition,
Right.
weapons, or any memorabilia of Jodie Foster, including photos or magazine
Oh,
articles. He was not allowed to contact Reagan's family, the families of the other people that he had shot, Jodie Foster. He could not watch or listen to violent movies, televisions, or compact
what?
discs. He could not access printed or online pornography, online access to violent movies, television, music. He could not speak to the press, which I find disappointing because now we can't interview him.
Right.
He's not allowed to visit the homes, past homes, or graves of the current or past presidents or certain past or present government officials. He's not allowed to erase his computer's web browser history. Um, and then some other stipulations like he had to work at least 3 days a week, and he has to leave immediately if he finds himself approaching prohibited places and stuff like that. So, but anyway, here's why he's in the news this week is that in 2020, he began uh, recording some music videos on YouTube of himself singing and playing guitar. But which at first he was not allowed. He could post these, but it had to have been done anonymously. But a judge
Okay.
ruled now that he can record these under his name, John Hinckley Jr. Um, so you can go to his YouTube channel where he has a few videos. He does some covers like Blown in the Wind by Bob Dylan
Sure,
and
classic.
Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis. I don't know if Elvis wrote that originally,
Maybe
but
a little too close with that one. Maybe.
those yes, exactly. Those covers are kind of boring, I think, but he has some original songs that he wrote. I'm like,
How
"Hey,
are they?
these are not bad, you know?"
Really?
And
Well, I
they're
mean, he
all
wasn't
very kind of happy love songs.
well, he wasn't allowed to watch any violent movies for the last 40 years. So I'm sure he watched a lot of Disney, probably, I'm guessing, and
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to hear the creative products of someone who's never played a violent video game and never seen a violent movie. That seems pretty intense to me.
Yeah, yeah. They seem to be very cheerful. Um Here's something weird. Wherever he's living, I notice that he loves clocks because behind him is a wall that's full of clocks and
Okay.
they're all set at different times. So,
Interesting. It's a metaphor
yeah,
for sure. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Well, good job,
yeah.
John Hinckley Jr.
So,
I'm glad he's doing something productive with his time.
yeah,
I'd love to hear one of those bangers. I
he's
mean,
going
who
to cut an
knows?
album, I'm sure.
What if it's a bop? Like, what if John Hinckley Jr. goes straight to the top of the charts? There's got to be people who are like John Hinckley Jr. stans. Anytime anybody does some
Hmm.
dumb shit, there's like 100 people who are like, "Oh my God, you're the best." They write him fan letters in jail and stuff like that. Like,
Oh, yeah, even the comments on some of his YouTube videos are one guy, I mean, and this is kind of a good joke, you gotta admit. He's like, um, really a fan of your earlier work. Of course, his earlier work was shooting Reagan and other people. It's bad. It's a bad joke. Okay, I know, but
it is. But I've seen worse performance art. To be fair, the world is
yeah,
lousy with mimes. So, okay, good job. Well, we should play that. Oh,
we'll play a clip.
Andrew, Andrew, you should do a sick like electro version of one of John Hinckley's bangers, so the kids can all dance to it. What a great idea! Love it. Yo, okay, well, that's good stuff. We learned a lot. We grew a lot today. We laughed. I feel like we came together as a unit. we, we had a lot of phrasing issues, which was really good. He does a cover of Hanson's Bop.
That's something that would be
Oh.
interesting to see for sure, Shane. Thanks for hanging out with us, Shane. Um, yeah, interesting stuff. People, if you want to hear some of our previous podcast episodes, go to tcrulos.com. You can find a link to all the episodes we've done so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see you next week, Heidi.
I'll see you next week, T.
Bye, everyone.